Hey, listen up, because what I'm about to tell you will completely change how you think about attraction. Most guys spend their whole lives trying to be memorable, trying to impress women with flashy cars, expensive dinners, or cheesy pickup lines. But here's what they don't understand. Being unforgettable has nothing to do with any of that stuff. It's deeper than that. It's psychological. It's about creating an emotional imprint that she can't shake, even when you're not around. You see, there's a difference between being liked and being unforgettable. Any guy can be liked. But unforgettable? That's rare. That's powerful. And once you understand what creates that kind of lasting impact, you'll never look at attraction the same way again. So buckle up, because today we're diving deep into the psychology of what makes a man absolutely unforgettable to women. And listen, this isn't some feel-good motivational nonsense. This is about understanding human psychology, about knowing exactly what creates that magnetic pull that keeps you in her thoughts long after you've left the room. By the end of this, you'll know exactly what separates forgettable guys from the ones women can't stop thinking about. Let's get into it. The first trait is that you're emotionally unavailable, but not in the way you think. Now, before you roll your eyes, hear me out. I'm not talking about being a cold, heartless jerk. I'm talking about emotional self-sufficiency. See, most guys, when they meet a woman they like, they become emotionally dependent on her validation. They need her attention, her approval, her constant reassurance. And that neediness? It kills attraction instantly. But an unforgettable man, he's different. He's emotionally complete without her. He doesn't need her to validate his worth. He doesn't need her to make him feel good about himself. He wants her in his life, but he doesn't need her. And women, they can sense this difference immediately. When you're not desperately seeking her approval, when you're not hanging on her every word, waiting for her to text back, she notices. Here's what happens in her mind. She starts questioning herself. Why isn't he chasing me like other guys? Why doesn't he seem desperate for my attention? And that creates curiosity. Curiosity turns into intrigue. And intrigue? That's what keeps you in her thoughts. See, most guys give women their entire emotional world on a silver platter. But you keep parts of yourself private, mysterious. And that drives her crazy in the best way possible. The second trait is that you have unshakable standards, and you're not afraid to enforce them. Listen up. Most guys, when they find a woman they're attracted to, they lower their standards. They accept behavior they wouldn't tolerate from anyone else. They become yes men, hoping that being agreeable will make them more attractive. But here's the brutal truth. Nothing kills attraction faster than a man with no backbone. An unforgettable man, he knows what he will and won't accept, and he's not afraid to walk away if those standards aren't met. He doesn't argue. He doesn't negotiate. He doesn't try to convince her to treat him better. He just sets the boundary, and if she crosses it, he's out. And you know what happens? Women respect this. They might test your boundaries at first, but when they see you're serious, when they see you'll actually walk away, that's when the real attraction begins. I'll give you an example. Let's say she starts playing games, texting other guys in front of you, or being disrespectful. Most guys would either ignore it or try to compete for her attention. But an unforgettable man? He addresses it once, clearly and calmly. And if it continues, he's done. No drama, no begging, no second chances. And here's the crazy part. She'll often come back, respecting you more than ever. Because she realizes you're not like other guys. You won't tolerate disrespect. The third trait is that you create emotional highs and lows without being manipulative. This one's crucial, so pay attention. Most guys try to keep women happy all the time. They think constant positivity equals attraction. But that's not how emotions work. Flat emotions are forgettable. But emotional variety? That creates lasting memories. An unforgettable man, he naturally creates emotional range. Not through manipulation, but through authenticity. Sometimes he's playful and fun. Sometimes he's serious and focused. Sometimes he's challenging her thoughts and beliefs. And sometimes he's supporting her dreams. This emotional variety keeps her engaged, keeps her guessing, and most importantly, keeps her feeling alive. When you're with a woman and every interaction is predictable, When she knows exactly how you'll react to everything, she gets bored. But when you're emotionally dynamic, when you can make her laugh, then challenge her thinking, then show her genuine care, she never knows what to expect. And that unpredictability? That's addictive. But here's the key, this isn't about playing games or being fake. It's about being a complete human being with depth, with different moods and perspectives. Most guys only show one side of themselves, the nice, agreeable side. But you show the full spectrum of who you are. And that complexity? That's what makes you unforgettable. The fourth trait might be the most important one, so listen carefully. You have a mission that's bigger than any relationship. Most guys, when they meet a woman they like, they make her their mission. They revolve their entire life around her schedule, her needs, her wants. And they lose themselves in the process. But an unforgettable man, he has something he's building, something he's working toward that matters more than any relationship. Maybe it's building a business. Maybe it's mastering a skill. Maybe it's creating something meaningful. But whatever it is, it drives him, it motivates him, and it doesn't stop just because a woman enters his life. And women? They find this incredibly attractive. Because it shows them you're not just another guy looking for someone to complete you. You're a man on a mission. Here's what this does psychologically. When she sees you prioritize your mission over spending every free moment with her, it creates scarcity. She realizes your time is valuable, your attention is earned, not given freely. And that makes her want it more. She starts competing with your mission for your attention. And that competition? That's what creates the unforgettable connection. I've seen this play out countless times. Guys who drop everything for a woman, they end up losing her. Guys who maintain their focus, their drive, their purpose, they become the ones women chase. And here's the beautiful part. When you're focused on your mission, you naturally become more interesting, more attractive, because you're growing, you're evolving, you're becoming someone worth remembering. The fifth trait is that you're comfortable with silence and space. Most guys are terrified of silence. They feel like they need to fill every moment with words, with entertainment, with constant stimulation. But an unforgettable man, he's comfortable with quiet moments, with space, with letting tension build naturally. When you're together and there's a pause in conversation, instead of immediately trying to fill it, you let it breathe. You're comfortable just being present. And that comfort with silence? It's incredibly powerful because it shows confidence. It shows you're not nervous or insecure about the connection. And here's something most guys don't understand. Silence creates anticipation. When you're not constantly talking, constantly entertaining, constantly trying to impress her, she starts wondering what you're thinking, what you're feeling. And that curiosity? That's what keeps you in her mind when you're not around. Same thing applies to space in the relationship. You don't need to text her every hour. You don't need to see her every day. You're comfortable with the natural rhythm of connection and distance. And that space, that breathing room, it allows attraction to build, allows her to miss you, to wonder about you, to think about you. The sixth trait is that you challenge her in ways no one else does. Here's something most guys get completely wrong. They think agreeing with everything a woman says will make her like them more. But that's the opposite of what creates lasting attraction. An unforgettable man, he challenges her thinking, her assumptions, her perspectives. Not in a disrespectful way, but in a way that makes her think deeper. When she expresses an opinion, instead of just nodding along, you might ask thought-provoking questions that make her examine why she believes what she believes. When she's being unreasonable, you call it out calmly and directly. When she's selling herself short, you push her to aim higher. Most women are surrounded by people who just agree with them, who tell them what they want to hear. But you make her think. You make her grow. You make her see things from new perspectives. And that intellectual stimulation? That's incredibly attractive because it shows you're not just another yes man. You're someone who can actually add value to her life. The seventh trait is that you have stories that reveal depth without trying to impress. Listen, every guy has stories. But most guys tell stories to impress, to show off, to prove how cool or successful they are. But an unforgettable man, his stories reveal character. They show vulnerability. They show growth. They show the real person behind the surface. Maybe you tell her about a time you failed at something important and what you learned from it. Maybe you share a moment when you had to make a difficult decision that revealed your values. Maybe you talk about a challenge you're currently facing and how you're working through it. These stories, they create emotional connection because they show you're human. They show you're not pretending to be perfect. And that authenticity? That's what creates lasting bonds. Most guys are so focused on presenting a perfect image that they never let women see the real person underneath. But you're comfortable being seen completely. The 8th trait is that you make her feel seen and understood, but not in an obvious way. Most guys try to make women feel special by showering them with compliments, by constantly telling them how beautiful they are. But an unforgettable man, he makes her feel understood on a deeper level. You notice things about her that others miss. You pick up on her subtle moods, her unspoken thoughts, her hidden dreams and fears. And you acknowledge them, not in a dramatic way, but in small, meaningful moments that show you're really paying attention. Maybe she's stressed about something at work, and instead of giving advice, you just acknowledge how hard she's working. Maybe she mentions something she's passionate about, and later you bring it up, showing you were really listening. Maybe you notice she's putting on a brave face when she's actually struggling, and you create space for her to be real. This kind of deep attention, this ability to see beyond the surface, that's what creates unforgettable connections. Because most people never feel truly seen, truly understood. But with you, she does. And that feeling? That's something she'll never forget. The 9th trait is that you're not afraid to disagree or create tension. Here's where most guys lose the game. They think keeping the peace means avoiding any conflict, any disagreement, any tension. But that's not how attraction works. Smooth sailing is boring. It's forgettable. But appropriate tension? That creates memorable moments. When you disagree with her, you don't back down just to avoid conflict. You stand your ground respectfully but firmly. When she's wrong about something, you're not afraid to correct her. When she's being unreasonable, you call it out. This isn't about being argumentative. It's about being authentic. And here's what happens when you're willing to create appropriate tension. It shows you're not desperate for her approval. It shows you have your own thoughts, your own opinions, your own backbone. And women? They find this incredibly attractive because it shows strength. It shows character. Most guys are so afraid of making waves that they become predictable. They become safe. They become forgettable. But you're willing to rock the boat when it matters. And that willingness to stand up for what you believe? That's what makes you unforgettable. The 10th trait might be the most important trait of all. You leave her wanting more. Most guys, when they're with a woman they like, they try to spend as much time as possible with her. They overstay their welcome. They drag out conversations. They're always available. But an unforgettable man, he knows when to leave. When you're having a great time together, instead of trying to extend the moment indefinitely, you're comfortable ending on a high note. When the conversation is flowing perfectly, you're not afraid to say you need to go. When she's enjoying your company, you don't feel the need to milk every second. This does something powerful in her mind. It leaves her craving more. It makes her think about you when you're gone. It makes her anticipate the next time she'll see you. And that anticipation? That's what keeps you in her thoughts long after you've left. Most guys think more time equals more attraction. But that's not true. Quality trumps quantity every time. And knowing when to leave, when to create space, when to let her miss you, that's the mark of an unforgettable man. The 11th trait is that you have genuine passions that don't revolve around impressing women. This one's crucial. Listen up. Most guys, when they're trying to attract women, they pick up hobbies they think women will find attractive. They start doing things to impress rather than because they genuinely care about them. But an unforgettable man, he has real passions, authentic interests that exist whether women are watching or not. Maybe you're passionate about music, not because it's cool, but because it moves you. Maybe you're into fitness, not to look good, but because you love the challenge. Maybe you're building something, creating something, learning something that has nothing to do with attraction. And here's why this matters. When your passions are genuine, when they come from a real place inside you, it shows. And that authenticity? That's incredibly attractive because it shows you're not performing. You're not trying to be someone you're not. You're just being yourself. The 12th trait is that you're comfortable being alone, and that shows. Most guys are terrified of being alone. They need constant social validation, constant companionship, constant stimulation. But an unforgettable man, he's comfortable in his own company. He enjoys solitude. He doesn't need other people to feel complete. And women? They can sense this immediately. When you're genuinely comfortable being alone, it shows you're not desperate for companionship. You're not looking for someone to fill a void. You're choosing to be with her because you want to, not because you need to. This comfort with solitude, it creates a different energy around you. It makes you more selective, more discerning, more valuable. Because if you're genuinely happy alone, then being with you becomes a privilege, not a given. The 13th trait is that you don't try to fix her or change her. This is where a lot of guys go wrong. They meet a woman and immediately start trying to improve her, trying to fix her problems, trying to change things about her. They think being helpful means being indispensable. But that's not how it works. An unforgettable man, he accepts her as she is. He doesn't try to be her therapist, her life coach, her savior. He sees her completely, acknowledges her flaws, and chooses to care about her anyway. And that acceptance? That's incredibly powerful. When you're not trying to change her, when you're not constantly giving advice, when you're not trying to solve all her problems, it shows you genuinely care about her. Not some improved version of her you want to create. And that unconditional acceptance? That's what creates deep, lasting connection. The 14th trait might be the most important one of all. You maintain your own identity in the relationship. Most guys, when they get into a relationship, they lose themselves. They adopt her interests, her friend group, her lifestyle. They become a reflection of her instead of remaining themselves. But an unforgettable man, he maintains his own identity, his own interests, his own friend group, his own goals. He doesn't sacrifice who he is for the relationship. And that independence? That's incredibly attractive because it shows strength. It shows self-respect. When you maintain your own identity, you bring something unique to the relationship. You don't become another one of her accessories. You remain a complete person with your own life, your own dreams, your own perspective. And that completeness? That's what makes you unforgettable. Listen up, guys. Being unforgettable isn't about tricks or techniques. It's about becoming the kind of man who naturally creates lasting impressions. It's about having depth, having character, having the strength to be yourself even when it's not easy. When you embody these traits, when you become emotionally self-sufficient, when you maintain your standards, when you have your own mission, when you're comfortable with who you are, something powerful happens. You stop trying to be memorable, and you just become unforgettable. And here's the beautiful part. When you're truly unforgettable, you don't have to chase women. You don't have to play games. You don't have to manipulate or convince. Because the right woman, the one who's meant for you, she'll recognize your value. She'll appreciate your character. She'll choose you, not because you convinced her to, but because she can't imagine choosing anyone else. So start today. Start building yourself into the kind of man who leaves lasting impressions. Not because you're trying to, but because that's who you are. And trust me, when you get there, when you become truly unforgettable, everything changes.